Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment is brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. The Haynes family first opened their doors in 1971, and they have been protecting homes all across East Tennessee ever since. Visit southeasttermite.com to learn more. Want to welcome, as we shift to basketball, we have a lot of football topics still to cover on the show. Mark Pankratz, former D1 basketball player, former assistant at the University of Tennessee. I also have here recently selected into the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame class for 2023. Mark, thanks for being here. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Much deserved honor.
Hey, I want to ask Vince something. Have you noticed how many people on this panel are in some kind of sports Hall of Fame, and me and you still ain't nothing?
There's time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We get to introduce Hall of Famers. That counts for something as well. If you count up the point total for Tennessee versus the opponents the last couple weeks, quite a difference. 94-40 the win over Alcorn State, 84-49 over Eastern Kentucky. Now the level of opponent's not going to impress, but the defense probably does. What do you take away from what you saw from Tennessee this past week leading into a big week that we'll get to?
Well, from a coach's perspective, those games are just so frustrating because you either do what you did and you dominate them, or you have moments of struggle which become really frustrating. You don't get much out of it. Yes, we were able to show, Phillips continues to mature as I think he had 18 one game and 16 and 10 another. You show the depth with guys being out of the lineup, guys be able to fill in. But then there's some question marks. You see how we handled some of EKU's pressure in the game the other night. Offensive rebounds, EKU still had 16 offensive rebounds, even though we were able to dominate them. And so there's a lot of positives to take away. Those games are always frustrating. You're worried about injuries, but now It's an exciting week coming forward.
They have had to play without key guys over the last few weeks. We talked about Josiah Jordan-James last week. He's come back. But this past week, Santiago Vescovi having to miss time. Mm-hmm. You guys see a benefit from getting a look of other guys with some of your leaders not being there at different stretches?
Yeah, I think a couple things. First, they've got a chance to see, and we've got a chance to see Jemiah Mashack starting role. I think you can see his athleticism, his willingness to drive into the lane. He can pull up. He can do a lot of different things that are against just other than just post plays and then three-point shooting. He gives you a little bit of different dynamic to that offense, and his energy obviously on defense. And then the other thing is more time for Tyreek Key on the ball at times at point, which of course there were some struggles there, but Rick Barnes wants him to shoot the ball more. Mm-hmm. So it's still a learning process with them, but I think it was very valuable even with those early struggles against EKU in the first half.
Well, it was a huge relief when you found out Tyreek Key said it was just a cramp, right? I mean, that was kind of scary to me because that's one of the guys that's benefited the most, I thought. And the injuries are starting to be a concern, right? I mean, Josiah James, isn't it the soreness from off-season surgery on his knee? Mm-hmm. And Santiago, boy, you don't want one of your best three-point shooters having a shoulder banged up. So it'll be interesting to see who they start today. By the way, that game's 4:30, mm-hmm. right? Fox Sports 1. Tennessee's favored like 5.5.
Yeah, Mark, last thing there, injuries, Rick Barnes kind of managing. We're talking about veterans who they probably have some trust in how they handle things. That's what Rick Barnes has indicated, allowing the players to give them feedback on how they're feeling. But how do you manage that if you're the coaching staff?
Well, one thing that I'm watching the end of these games, and you see some of these starters, like Zakai's in the game. We're up 30, 40 points with like 3 minutes left in the game. I'm like, guys, if Zakai goes down, who is our point guard? Mm-hmm. Who is our other true point guard? So some of that I'm asking, why were these guys still in? But you do got to trust the guys, and Chad Newman's been their trainer for a really long time. They do a really good job. But the depth, the way that they've recruited, and the way that they keep that culture, and those guys that are at the 8th, 9th, 10th man on the roster, keeping them engaged is the proactive approach, and it's proven valuable. We saw with what happened with Edu late in the season last year, being ready to play.
The one thing you said, Mark, I think Tennessee had a very poor practice the day before the game. That's one thing kind of got out there, and Rick Barnes was not happy. But that Eastern Kentucky team, I played on better church league teams than that, or the way they played. I mean, they were just clanging shot after shot after shot. And I was concerned at the end that somebody was going to get hurt, that you do need. But you wonder why he didn't substitute at that time when you're ahead so comfortably,
And he was fouled about 10 times Zakai Ziegler in that game. So he was getting banged up, a little bit under his skin also. But look, they play a different style, EKU. So that was the press. So it was a chance for you to see how you handle the press. Now, there's room for improvement there.
Yeah, he probably dribbled it too much.
Yeah. So I think that there's still some tape value in you trying to get better from that experience.
And Tennessee defense has been pretty much holding people to less than 50. Maryland's been averaging about 78. So we'll see. Today's a really good indication of how that Tennessee defense is doing against a pretty good opponent.
Yeah, we'll get to the matchup with Maryland coming up. Did you guys catch Chuck trying to campaign for the Church League Hall of Fame? Still trying to get in. Maybe the opponents, Alcorn State and Eastern Kentucky, did not excite you. The next opponents, Maryland, Arizona coming up. We'll talk about the big games Tennessee basketball continues to play when we come back, right here on The Sports Source.